This video is going to be about the cQ-DATR volume indicator version 3.0. This is the indicator down here. As you can tell, it's very similar to the WAE indicator, except this indicator uses the DATR in place of the MACD. If there's enough up volume, it'll draw this brighter blue color. It has to be above this minimum level, as well as above this up band here. And for the down, it also has to be above the minimum level and above this red band here. The main difference between this one and previous versions of this indicator is the addition of this attack and threshold parameters. I was trying to mimic a audio dynamics processor called a compressor, but that actually didn't work very well, so I settled for this, and I'll show you the code, what it's actually doing. This is the main difference. I also added a couple other modes. For example, darker when decreasing. You can see as it's increasing, it's a brighter color. As it's decreasing, it's a little darker. If it gets below here, it's even darker. Same with the down version. You can set the applied price. This will affect how the indicator responds. It also has an adaptive period. This is where you set the period. There's a number of different types of moving averages that you can use. For example, if you were going to use one that had parameters AMA, for example, you could go down here. These are the DTR moving average parameter values where you can change those. Here's the ones for the bands if you're using an ALMA or the AMA, KAMA. And then the ATR, which is used in calculating this minimum level. Those are here. And then this, I'll show you the code in a little bit. There's 3 modes you can calculate. The ATR, which the normal high-low, the high minus the low, and you would then probably run that through an SMA, and that is your normal ATR. Then you have the absolute value of the open minus close times 2. And then I also added this use applied price, which basically takes whatever you have here, which is, you could use the close or you can use any of these, and it will take the absolute value of the difference between the current and the previous and run that through any one of these. This will affect all the ATR on the indicator. It changes how this indicator responds. I'll just start moving some of these. For example, if you use the median, the other thing that I've noticed with the attack and threshold, it really makes it a lot easier to find a good setting. There's 4 band modes. Right now we're on using moving average, 2 moving average, 1 for up and 1 for down. But you also have a single moving average, which it's summation of the 2. And you get this. There's also the standard deviation. With the standard deviation, generally it's a little lower, and you may have to set this to 2 to get something a little closer to what the moving averages are using. Just know that if you're using that mode. And it also has the single standard deviation. You can swap the bands. I'm going to turn off the minimum level just so you can see what swapping the bands does. I mean, if you're running out of ideas or if it just isn't working, we can just give that a shot and see if it does anything. Here you have a whole bunch of these band types, similar ones. And again, the parameters, if you want to change any of those, are down here. And then this is the bands or deviation multiplier right here. This zero opposite DATR input is, I'll just turn this off. Rather try to, when you watch these bands, I'll turn it back. Put it back on, because I changed a lot of things there. And for example, if I put this here, you'll really notice it. This is how it normally is right here. And then there's the the minimum ATR level, this gets a pretty straight, flat line. It's a very slow-moving average. And this is the up level of this ATR. For example, you can put this to 3, and it moves it up. And then this, you can apply this inverted, which will subtract whatever value you have in here. Right now it's a 10 linear weighted moving average, and we'll put the value at 1.5. And it's going to subtract it from the 180x VMA ATR value. And this is what that looks like. And this is just the generic type C code. It calculates the ATR first. As you could tell, there was 3 different modes: the high, low, open, close, and use applied price. This is basically what goes on there. This is the beginning of the DATR and how it's calculated. As you can see, this candle distance is using this ATR in its calculation. It's really just a moving average. Again, this is the ATR moving average type. Again, it will affect the rest of everything down the chain. If the current close is greater than the previous close plus whatever this candle distance is, it will put the value in the up buffer, set the down buffer to 0. If the current close is less than the previous close minus this candle distance, it will put the input value into the down. Otherwise, it will put 0 in both of them. From there, this is the up DATR value. You generate a threshold value here, again based on what you have set here, again using this ATR that's calculated up here. Then the up buffer is smoothed, so we can calculate the standard deviation. The up buffer then is compared to the threshold. If it's below the threshold, it puts a 0 in it, else it just passes the value. Then it tests it, the maximum candle height, and then it does the same thing for this down buffer, and then it smooths it. That's what the bars are. The bands are calculated based on what the bars are. There's also a no parameters version, and here's the no parameters version. It's going to read that file. You can see that it just copies it. It's the same thing. If you go up here, change this to something different. What you have to do is open this and close it again, and it will reload it. It's to be used in an expert advisor, or when the expert advisor is initialized, it will load this file just one time that has all the parameters, and it will put those parameters in the indicator. And then all you have to do is call the iCustom function with this indicator name in it and the buffer and candle you want the value for, and it will give it to you. There's also here, you can see these are the buffers that are used. This indicator up here, very similar to the cQ supertrend bands, but this one uses the ALMA, and I've added dots. I did the same thing, have the same thing done with the supertrend and the half trend, a number of other ones. I'll put those out relatively soon. And I just realized I'm on the 15-minute. So that's the 15-minute chart. Anyway, I think that's the indicator.